Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hellion Rebellion Rock and Roll Association. Welcome, associates. Last week I did upload a video. However, I went back and looked at that video, and I will say this. I don't think I was 3 sheets to the wind when I made that video, but I was probably 2 sheets. So I decided to delete that video, mostly because of my speech patterns. It wasn't succinct. The information was. My information doesn't have to be totally right, but it can't be totally wrong either. So, yeah, we will revisit that artist and that video again in 2-3 weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and do the moments of silence that I did on that video for that week. And we have some big ones this week before we get started into our sit back, relax, and check out some jams. So the moments of respect, the rock and roll soldiers that we have lost in the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks now is a man who fronted anarcho-punk legends Conflict. We had Colin Jerwood, who left us this month. Great, if you're into that anarcho style of punk rock, Conflict is definitely one of those top 5 bands to really listen to. Today, I just found out we lost Douglas McCarthy, who fronted the dance, what would you call that, industrial dance band Nitzer Ebb, which I will admit I'm not all that familiar with them, other than a song or two and the name. He was 58, pretty young to go. A big one we lost a day or two ago. We lost what's his name? Is it Sylvester Stewart? I wrote this down. I wrote it down. Sylvester Stewart. He's of course better known as Sly Stone from the group. The original Funkmeisters, Sly and the Family Stone, definitely paved the way for that style of music. And then a really big one, and one that's kind of close to my heart, is that we lost Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. I think Brian Wilson is kind of a mad genius. And I think the Beach Boys, and especially the Beach Boys with Brian Wilson, are kind of have done so much for rock and roll that we don't really give them the credit that's due. Maybe we do. Maybe I don't listen enough surf music to know. But we never really put the Beach Boys there with Elvis or Chuck Berry or something like that. And they really need to be up there with those kinds of legends. I do have a funny Beach Boys story, sort of. I back in 1988, 89, I went and saw Metallica in the great state of Connecticut. And this was at a amusement park / concert venue. And this was on the Injustice for All tour, which, on a side note, the song Injustice for All, you should go back and listen to it because it is incredibly relevant in the United States right now. But I saw them on that tour. And that night they broke the sound ordinance and they ended up getting fined, I don't know, 10 grand or something. And of course we're just like, well, of course they're going to be loud. It's Metallica. They rule. Yeah. And hell, they're rich now. They can pay for that. We loved it. And it was loud. I'm not going to lie. That was one of the loudest shows I've ever I've ever been to. Not the loudest, but one of the loudest. So there was a article in the paper the very next day, the local paper up there. Of course, I bought it and cut all the pictures out. And they talked about how big the show was, how many people were there, that sort of thing. And they talked about the noise ordinance thing and how they had to pay a fine. But they said that Metallica was only the second loudest band that had ever played at that venue. And the first loudest band, or the loudest band that has ever played there, was the Beach Boys back in like 1982 or 1983. And it, to this day, it boggles my mind. It's like, how are the Beach Boys louder than Metallica? How's that even possible? I almost want to see the Beach Boys that loud. Like, I don't care about their music. I just want to see how loud those guys can actually get. So, I mean, it's kind of a funny little Beach Boys story. But yeah, Brian Wilson is definitely a legend. I mean, you know, Sly Stone. I mean, all these guys are. So let's go ahead and honor Colin Jerwood, Douglas McCarthy, Sly Stone, and Brian Wilson. Okay. May all four of these masters of their rock and roll craft find surfing in the cosmos as relaxing and as exciting as if they were surfing with the alien. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about a band from St. Louis. I think I consider this music to be metal. It's that early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s kind of emo metal. You know, it's those bands that were really hard and then they would have like the clean lyrics. It's one of those kinds of bands. I don't collect a lot of this, but I found myself with this CD. I don't know, a couple months ago, and I've been rocking it on a regular basis. And most of this music I have is on compilations. But when I find something really good, I do appreciate this kind of music. And this is one. And this is a band that has definitely flown under the radar. And it's a band called Strychnine Hollow. I want to say they get started around 2009 probably, and they would go on to about 2012, somewhere like that. Again, it's the hard thing, the soft thing, the hard thing. I guess if you were going to compare these guys to other bands, it would be bands like Thrice, Greeley Estates, Kill Switch Engage, August Burns Red, and hell, I mean, when the singer is using his softer side of his voice, he almost sounds like the singer from AFI. So if you're into that kind of thing, I think you're going to really like this band. I know I do. But other than that, I don't know much more about these guys. Everybody in this band is very proficient at what they do. But I will say this, and I notice this when I listen to music, is that the bass player is incredible. I tend to focus on drums, sometimes guitar, but I focus on drums and singing a lot. Guitar playing, I don't care how technical it is. I don't care if you're like the Ramones and you're just playing rhythm. If you're good at it, you're good at it. But when you hear that bass and it really sticks out, it to me that's kind of exciting, and definitely pay attention to some of the bass in this. The only other thing I know is I do know that the reason this band isn't around anymore is sadly their singer passed away very early on, and I have no doubt that was probably a catalyst for them not being around anymore. But I think they have a couple full lengths out on I don't know, Bandcamp, Discogs, whatever. They're definitely on Spotify and all those streaming services if you're interested in this. I know this is something my kids definitely would love. They're all into that Pierce the Veil and all that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and check out Strychnine Hollow. At first, I think I think I really like the title track off of here, Dying for a Dream. So I think I'm going to play Dying for a Dream. And what? Let's do it. My CD player's finally working again. I was tinkering with it a couple weeks ago and I got it to work. Let's hopefully it works tonight. I'm so excited. Right, Strychnine Hollow, Dying for a Dream. Um, yeah, that song probably had more to do with drums and singing and stuff. But there's some incredible bass lines on here. There's some good ones in that one too. Yeah, this you hear what I'm saying? It's like when you do that kind of music right, it sounds perfect. Uh, and those guitar players, those guys are doing like some Rush or something right there. That's cool. Anyway, I hope you liked it. I enjoy that, and my hands they're just really hot right now, and I just felt like I needed to crush and melt some ice. Uh, but in the end, we're all dying for a dream. Cheers. I'll see you next time.